Head teacher! Head teacher! Head teacher!
A small group of mainly Muslim protesters will attend Birmingham Crown Court in October this year. They're angry that a local school has shown children books containing images of same-sex families, such as this. For months, weekly protests occurred outside of the school gates. At one protest, an invited speaker shouted this.
Fascists, that's all we can do! Because there's paedophiles in there! There are paedophiles in there! Put half of it up! Give it here! Give it here! There are paedophiles in there! This is a paedophilia agenda! And this is about indifference!
That happened directly outside of a primary school. Children from that school were there and heard what he shouted. Now imagine what it's like for those children. They have a man of the same religion who keeps shouting that there are paedophiles in their school. And on Monday, those children have to go back to school without their parents and spend the day alongside adults who have been labelled as paedophiles. That's frightening for any child. The man in the grey shirt, who is holding up some papers as the other man shouts about paedophiles, is Shakeel Afzar. You'll notice that Shakeel does not even attempt to stop him making those awful allegations. We'll come back to Shakeel a bit later on. An injunction was issued against the protesters, preventing them from protesting directly outside of the school. Since then, the protests have continued, but just further away. Here are some highlights from a recent protest.
To tell them that it's all right to marry a man because you're a man. It's all right to marry a girl because you're a girl. It is a corruption of society as we know it.
Yes.
I'd be horrified to think that such a hurtful thing could be shouted outside of a primary school, especially considering the fact that nowadays lots of children have same-sex parents. Here's another speaker from the same protest. Look at the posters in the background.
If we were protesting outside a gay bar, then I would absolutely understand the counter-protesters, but we are not protesting outside a gay bar. Yes. We are protesting outside a school for our legal rights under the Equality Act, where we are a protected community.
If you look closely, you can see that some of the posters are about stopping gender-neutral toilets. But the school that the protesters are upset with does not have gender-neutral toilets and never has. But the fact that the protesters have included this in their protest, along with those really hurtful statements about gay marriage, make me feel that this is just an anti-LGBT protest in general. The man speaking in that clip is Ayaz. He recently had an epiphany and realised that this conflict was actually because of racism. And you'll notice that Shakeel seems to agree with him.
Why? Why are we as brown people targeted in that way? Does the institutional racist Birmingham police not realise this? You know, all of this racism needs to stop. And it needs to be pointed out to everybody, and everywhere you go.
Not all of the protesters believe that the conflict has been caused by racists. Here's Abu, who believes that this is all the fault of the Zionists. Anyway, back to Ayaz.
Because we are protesting about a breach of law under the Public Sector Equality Duty, a breach of law under the Equality Act, a breach of law under the Race Relations Act, a breach of law under the Sexual Offences Act of 2003.
Ayaz claimed that there has been a breach of the Sexual Offences Act. Who is he accusing of breaching this law? Can you imagine how frightening it is for a child to hear something like that? And Ayaz doesn't just say this once. Here he is again shouting about the Sexual Offences Act.
Every teacher in that school that breaks the law will be prosecuted for breaking the law. When you breach the Sexual Offences Act, when you breach the Equality Duty, when you breach the Public Sector Equality Act, you are breaking the law.
That's frightening for any child to hear. So let's have a look at another protester. This one is called Jabba, and here he is talking about a gay teacher at one of the schools that's been targeted.
And don't teach our children that gay is okay, because in Islam, gay is not okay, but we have to tolerate it. We have no issues against the person who practices sodomy. Let him do it at home. Okay, so if Mr. Moffat is teaching about ballet, male ballet dancers, or if he wants to become a male ballet dancer, I have no objections for him to be that. Yeah, if he wants to dress in his skirt, okay, and put his little frock on and dance around in front of his male partner, we have no issue with that. We have an issue with you teaching that nonsense to our children.
Frocks, ballet dancers, dresses. Can you imagine the sort of rubbish this man would fill a child's head with if it was left to him to explain what a gay person was? And what's even more shocking is that Jabba is making these comments in public, fully aware of the fact that he's being filmed. Shakil Afzar is the lead campaigner who organises these protests. He claims that he's not homophobic. Here's a Twitter user laughing about the fact that Shakil has got the LGBT community shook. But look at Shakil's reply. And look at this. Here is Shakil referring to LGBT campaigner Peter Tatchell as Mrs. Peter Tatchell. And here he is doing it again. Why? What has that got to do with LGBT inclusive education? Recently, a Muslim lady was caught shouting abuse at a gay pride march. If you've not seen the footage, here it is.
People! Shame on you, you shameless people! Shame on you! Shame on you, despicable people! Shame on you! That's what the racists and fascists say about you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
After that clip was published online, Shakil tweeted the following. I suspected that Shakil's claim about her being asked to remove her veil and party was untrue. I searched Google, but there was nothing about her veil or a party. After she was caught and charged, I checked Google again, but there was still no mention of Shakil's claim. I asked him where he got the information from, but he didn't reply. Earlier today, I checked Google for a third time, but again, there was no mention of Shakil's claim. I suspect that Shakil took a homophobic incident and attempted to twist it into an Islamophobic incident. You may recognise Shakil from this video clip which recently went viral.
Yes, the pundits, all the ancestral pundits, we are not going nowhere. We will never let you protest in Birmingham, ever.
Why not?
We will never let it. We will never allow it. We are never allowing it. We have a right. We have a right. International community. We have a right. Please stay away. Please stay away. Give me distance. Give me distance. Get out my space. You will abuse our people in Kashmir. We will not tolerate it here. We will fight till the end last drop of blood. Our people will fight. You cannot challenge our people. We will fight till the last drop of blood. You will move from here. Hello. The way India move us, we will move you from here. You will move from here. You will not stay here.
As unbelievable as it sounds, a month before Shaquille will go to Birmingham Crown Court to argue for his right to keep holding these protests outside of a primary school, he is filmed shouting at an elderly lady and telling her that she isn't allowed to protest in Birmingham city centre. If you'd like to keep updated with the behaviour of the protesters, then please follow me on Twitter @SinfulPenguin.